Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. So I want to start off with a quick story. So earlier this year, we were playing it's 12U baseball. We're playing in a tournament and we played well Saturday, but we were not playing well on Sunday. This is a semifinal game. We were down. We were still in it, but the opposing pitcher was a stud and was just flat out making us look bad. So later in the game, our number 8 hitter comes up and he lines a single to right. And we thought that could just be the spark that we need, right? A couple of pitches later, pass ball. And we're all looking like, hey, he's going to go. He freezes. He stays at first. And from the dugout, it looked like he was sleeping. Next pitch is another wild pitch, and he goes, but given the circumstances, he could have been at third. And the next pitch, line drive to right field, caught by the right fielder. But if he was on third base, it was deep enough that he could have tagged up and scored, and we had momentum. We're right back in the game. But instead, he slips going back to second base and is doubled off. 2 outs, rally killer, momentum gone. We go on to lose the game. Is that all his fault? Absolutely not. He learned from it. But my initial reaction was that was some dumb baseball. And I asked him later about the pass ball and why he didn't go. And he said, I didn't see if it was at the catcher's feet or if it passed him. And I didn't want to cost us an out if I was wrong. It wasn't the lack of hustle, it was uncertainty. And uncertainty can kill instinct. It wasn't dumb. There was a completely reasonable factor that he weighed, and he made a decision that quickly. And maybe it was a decision that he'd do differently 9 times out of 10, but in that moment, he made that decision. And it wasn't necessarily dumb. In fact, most of the time when someone does something that looks lazy, it looks careless, clueless, looks dumb, there's more to the story. And if we don't pause to understand that story and what's going on, we end up hurting that relationship. It can hurt our leadership credibility and we can hinder that person's growth. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Next Season podcast, episode number 30. And in today's episode, I want to challenge you. It's all about the moments when someone, whether it's a player, your kid, teammate, your coach, parent, an umpire, whoever that is, does something ridiculous. And you're left shaking your head like, what was that? How are we still making that mistake? Like that had to be on purpose. You couldn't possibly be that dumb, right? But what if it wasn't? What if there was a totally understandable, maybe even justifiable reason behind that behavior? I'm breaking down the real reasons that people mess up, fall short, or do dumb stuff, the real reasons people do dumb stuff. And it actually makes a lot of sense if you detach, if you step back with humility and try to understand what's really going on. This is another two-part episode because there are 16 possible explanations why people might do something you think is really stupid. And these 16 explanations fall into two distinct buckets. I'm going to cover the first bucket today with 6 reasons. And then in episode 31, I'm going to get into that second bucket with the remaining 10. I'm going to give you the 6 explanations, the 6 reasons, talk a little bit about what's going on with some of the brain chemistry and some situations and things you might relate to. At the end, I'm going to give you the name of that bucket. We're going to label it and what it really means so you can approach those situations with more understanding and more humility. And these examples that I'm going to share might be coming from more of a coach or parent perspective because that's who I am now. But if you're an athlete, it should be pretty easy for you to see how they fit for you as well. And at the end of episode 31, right, the next episode, once we cover all 16, I'm going to give you some action steps and some recommendations that might help. So whether you're a player, you're a coach, or you're a parent, you're getting frustrated with your teammates, you're getting frustrated with umpires, you're getting frustrated with your coaches, you're getting frustrated with your parents, we can all practice some of this reflection. Let's get into it. So the first bucket, again, is all about these 6 reasons that people might mess up. And the first reason that someone might do something that we think is really freaking dumb is they don't know what they're supposed to do. Let's be real. Have you ever forgotten a sign? Have you ever forgotten a play call or forgot an assignment where you're supposed to be? Many of us assume that our players, our athletes, our teammates know the system. But did you teach it? Did you really learn it? Or did you mention it once and assume that it stuck? So I recall a situation where we had a 12-year-old baseball player who first started playing with us in the fall. So very limited practices together before we had some fall baseball games and tournaments. He was raw, like physical talent. He was strong. Raw talent was there. He's a first baseman and a pitcher. And he kept forgetting his role on cutoffs as a first baseman, covering first on a ground ball to the right side when he was pitching, or different things like that. Just basic stuff, right? We're all on him, like, kid, what are you doing? We're a solid tournament team. Like, we drill this stuff all the time. But he came from a program where he was never taught this consistently. So here we are getting on him. And yes, if he studied the game, he should know where to be, but he didn't. And we assume that this was stuff that he, along with everyone else, already knew. So we're thinking he doesn't get it. He didn't know what to do. And this happens all the time with parents and everyone else too. We think our kid should know better, but we never really slow down, or maybe don't slow down enough to show them better, right? If they do something that's dumb because they legitimately don't know what they're supposed to do, whose fault is that? And if we're thinking, well, they should ask or they should say something if they don't know what to do, the question I'm going to ask you is, have you created an environment where that vulnerability and that honesty is welcomed? Maybe, maybe not. That's the first reason. Somebody may not know what to do. The second reason that someone might do something that we think is really dumb is they don't know how to do it the right way. And so obviously this is a little bit different than not knowing what to do. They know what to do, but they just don't know how to do it. You might have a player who knows that they should have a two strike approach, but not know how to do it, not actually know what that means. You might have a fielder who knows that they should play the ball because he keeps saying, play the ball, and keep their feet moving through the throw, but they might not actually know what that looks like, how to do it. You might have a player who knows they should reset and regain composure and control their emotion, but they don't know how to do it. It's much easier said than done. And if you're a parent or a coach and you're being honest with yourself, you may not know how or demonstrate it well either. Here's another example. Coaches tell hitters all the time to stay back and let the ball travel, right? Stay back, let the ball to get deep, let the ball travel. But then we're also telling players to meet the ball out front. So both have their place depending on the hitter, depending on their hitter tendencies, depending on their mechanics or specific situation. But you can see how this is seriously confusing as a hitter. Knowing what to do isn't the same as knowing how to do it because your brain builds skill through practice and repetition. Every time that you practice something the right way, your brain sends signals along a pathway called a neural circuit. And the more that you use that circuit, the more it gets what's called myelinated, meaning it gets coated in a layer that makes that signal travel faster and smoother. It's like greasing the groove. And this is how skills can be automatic, that you don't even have to think about it. But if you don't get enough quality reps, or if you're repeating the wrong form, your brain wires it the wrong way. And that's why good coaching and focused feedback are so impactful and so valuable. They help your brain learn the right pattern. So you're not just thinking it, you can then do it, especially in moments under pressure. This is why pros do countless reps of the boring stuff, the T drills, the soft toss, the slow ground balls where they're just working on reps, working on their forehands, their backhand. Okay. This is why pros do those things, even after they've made it, because they know they need to keep those pathways clear. If the reps aren't there, neither is the skill. The third reason that somebody might do something that we think is really dumb is they might think they're doing it the right way. So they know what to do, they know how to do it, and they think they are doing it. And this one's really tough because from their perspective, they believe they're giving full effort. They believe they're locked in. They think they're doing the right thing. They think they've got the right form or the right mechanics, saying the right things, or maybe they think they're controlling their emotions effectively, or maybe they think they're being a good teammate, whatever it is, but they have a blind spot. And what they see and what you see don't necessarily match up. When working with adults in settings outside of sports, I call this unconscious incompetence. Basically, you're not aware that you're not doing it right. Again, unconscious incompetence. We've seen it all the time. The hitter that says he's staying back and he's not dropping his hands, but then you show him the video and he realizes he's wrong. The fielder who we have to remind to do prep steps and he doesn't look ready, but he says that he's ready. He said he's doing the prep steps. But then again, he sees the video and realizes, wait, I'm wrong. The runner who insists he's getting a good secondary, but you show him the video and he realizes how short of a lead he has. I once had a player who thought he was going hard in preparation for the season, the off season. He thought he was putting in the work. Then I did a time audit and I showed him the daily schedule of one of his teammates who was really getting after it. And he realized where he was wrong. He literally didn't know the difference until he saw it. And this topic is one that really captures the value of that video feedback because the brain has a lot of difficulty fixing or changing what it can't see. When players think they're doing it right, but they're not, it's a gap in self awareness. And video feedback helps close that. What it does is it activates the brain's error detection system, especially in the prefrontal cortex. And that helps athletes compare what they think they did to what they actually did. And this can help speed up motor learning and help rewire the correct movement pattern. In short, what you can see, you can change. So there is your first three. They don't know what to do. They know what to do, but they don't know how to do it. And they know what to do, they know how to do it, and they think they are doing it, but they're not. Is your first three. The fourth reason that people might do something that we think is really dumb is there are obstacles outside of their control. We had tryouts for our team. There was a player who I've never seen before, but you can tell he's a good athlete. He's got good size, he's got good presence. He was very respectful, hustling. He was raw, right? There were certainly some things to work on, but the potential was there. He was doing everything right. And part of the tryout is bullpen, our own bullpen. And what we're trying to do is get a sense of velocity and command, mechanics, mound presence, things like that. Trying to figure out who are our pitchers or potential pitchers. He starts throwing. He has no control. Turns out he had somehow busted his thumb a few days prior, and he was trying to gut through it, but he had no grip and he had no command. And so obviously that's an obstacle beyond his control. Does that mean that he did something dumb? Not necessarily, but you get the point. A few other examples. Kid swings and misses at a pitch in the other batter's box for a strikeout. When his parents get on him for swinging at a bad pitch, he has to tell them that, yeah, the umpire's been calling it all day, right? Or the umpire makes a call on the field that you disagree with, but he's the only field umpire covering multiple bases, and his angle was blocked by a slide. And on the topic of umpires, I'm going to give some credit. I get frustrated as anybody with some umpire calls. And when there is an egregious call or some of the instigation that we see at times, I think that can be a problem. I really don't like how umpires have different zones. How many times I've heard an umpire say, "This is my zone," and calls pitches at the ankles or a foot off the plate? No, there's a strike zone, right? That's the rule. There's a strike zone. It's not your strike zone, not your interpretation of a strike zone. There's a strike zone. Right? We're trying to teach hitters to swing at strikes and protect the plate, and we're trying to teach pitchers to have command. And then you blow it all up because you have a zone that you like to call. That can get frustrating. As players, we know that it's a failing game. Our players go into it knowing that if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're doing great, right? We know that we're going to make physical errors in the field. We know as pitchers, we're going to give up walks and hits. Like that's part of the game. We know there's failure because we're human. But then as players and coaches and parents, we expect umpires who are also human to never miss a call. We expect them to be perfect. They're not trying to do dumb stuff on purpose either. So let's give credit where credit's due. Take it easy. Take a step back. Okay. We went to a tournament a few weeks ago. Drove over an hour to get there. To be there at 7 a.m. for an 8 a.m. start, only to arrive and the field was not ready. There's mud puddles and standing water everywhere. Fields are not lined. And there's nobody in sight. And when someone finally showed up from the tournament, he told us that the field was not playable. Obviously, we knew that. And that we had to move to a different location and there was going to be a delay. When we made it all very clear that we were not happy about this, he clarified that he was one of 3 guys working 4 fields. And he's been there since 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get the fields ready, only to have a storm come through at 5:30. So yeah, we could be annoyed that the field wasn't ready and that we weren't notified, but there were certainly obstacles beyond that gentleman's control. For this one, it's important to go back how you respond, control what you can control, and think there very likely could be obstacles outside somebody else's control. There is your fourth reason. Fifth reason that someone might do something that we think is really dumb There's personal limits, right? There's some type of limitations mentally, emotionally, or physically. There's situations where a player's challenge isn't just external or situational. It's things that we don't see. Again, physical, emotional, mental, neurological. And while they want to do something and they think they know how to do it, perhaps they're trying to do it, their current capacity doesn't allow it yet. But here's the power. Neuroscience and neuroplasticity shows us that capacity can grow with time, reps, and awareness and coaching. Maybe they're not strong enough yet. Maybe they're socially anxious and can't speak up well yet. Maybe their nervous system is maxed out from sensory overload and they shut down and they freeze for now. So, parents and coaches, if your son freezes in big moments, like the story earlier about our base runner that froze on that pass ball, it's not because he didn't care, because his brain's amygdala is firing so hot that it can override logic. Under stress, that prefrontal cortex, which is the decision making center, can get overridden by survival wiring, right? That's not a character flaw. That's not a lack of talent or effort, biology. It's just the brain and the body isn't ready yet, at least in that moment. That doesn't mean there won't be. Coaches and parents may yell at players to slow down and make better decisions, but not all brain process stimuli at the same speed. This is tied to executive function and again in that prefrontal cortex. You might have guys who have trouble switching tasks, right? Difficulty switching tasks. And some athletes might struggle with something called cognitive flexibility, switching from failure to refocus or offense to defense. I have a job. My day job requires a ton of task switching, often on multiple computers. And it's summer, so we have kids at home and jumping around with them, right? I've got multiple businesses, this podcast, do coaching, coach the team sports, coach sports schedules, do consulting. I'm certainly not alone in this, and many, many people have much more demanding schedules than I do. But it can be draining to jump from one task to another. Same is true for athletes. That's task switching. There could be emotional limits, right? Like everyone has a different capacity to handle emotional situation with frustration and anger. That amygdala, the fight, flight, or freeze, can hijack the brain's response before that prefrontal cortex, which is logic, has the chance to step in. This is especially true for younger athletes with developing brain. Here's another one. There could be players who have low self worth despite having high effort or high skill. If the brain has wired in and they've heard or they feel like I'm not enough, I'm never going to be enough, constantly comparing to teammates who are different or better, right? If they get enough of those messages early, there becomes a deep groove in that default mode network, which is the system that runs when you're alone with your thought. And so that can be one of those personal limits. It can be self-imposed, right? Or imposed by external factors. Speaking of comparison, social comparison lights up reward and fear circuits in the brain. It's a survival tool that can backfire in team sports and individual performance, right? And you can have physical and developmental limits. You can just have a late bloomer, right? We've seen it all the time where we're 16, 17 years old, 18 is when they start to hit a massive growth spurt. But 12, 13, 14, 15, they were the grunt. They were the tiny guy on the team. They know the game, but their neuromuscular system or strength hasn't caught up yet, and they can't match their peers' size or power, speed, or throwing strength yet. Okay. All of this, the physical stuff can get trained. The mental stuff can get trained, obviously. The mechanics, the baseball IQ, the intent, the emotional control. All of these things can be practiced, especially when you have good coaching. The power of good coaching. Sometimes that struggle isn't about attitude. It's just flat out about capacity. Doesn't mean the brain or the body is lazy or broken. It's just wiring. And with the right reps and the right support and the right mindset, these limits can become catalysts for growth. Which brings us to the sixth reason that people might do something that we think is dumb. And it's because you expect them to do the right thing, but nobody can actually do it. Sometimes you're just asking for something that is unreasonable, a pitch that's unhittable, a test that completely isn't fair, a bar that is way too high for where they are developmentally or for whatever reason. There are situations where even elite athletes struggle. And it's not because they're weak, it's because these things challenge core human limitation. Okay? It's not about one player who gets it and another player who doesn't. It's because it's situations where just flat out nobody can do it. Attention span, emotional regulation, impulse control, right? They're all factors. And so we can get on our players or teammates for striking out in a key spot or making an error, or throwing to the wrong base or getting picked off, whatever it is, expecting that they will go all season without making these mistakes, without doing something really dumb. But nobody ever has gone all season without these mistakes, and nobody ever will. So if you're expecting your players to stay focused 100% of the time for a 6, 7, 8, or 9 inning game, the brain fatigues. The tension is going to naturally drift every couple seconds. The brain has a built-in negativity bias. It's a survival mechanism. You're going to have negative thought. If you expect your players not to react emotionally to mistakes they make, mistakes naturally trigger the amygdala, which is the brain's fear center and emotion center, and it hijacks logic. If you expect your athletes to execute perfect mechanics every single rep, our motor control and our motor systems degrade and stop performing well when we're tired or when we're stressed or feel pressure. The brain uses procedural memories. It's in the basal ganglia in the cerebellum to automate movement, but even small stress can disrupt it. If we expect our players not to care what anyone thinks, social validation triggers dopamine. But when you feel accepted, you feel a part of something, it triggers dopamine, while rejection can light up the same brain areas as physical pain. So of course, they're going to care what people think. If we expect our athletes to bounce back instantly from failure, the brain processes failure like a threat. It triggers cortisol, can impair memory and learning unless that is reframed. If we expect our athletes to show up with energy and motivation all the time, motivation is driven by the dopaminergic system, which of course fluctuates daily based upon sleep, stress, and brain chemistry, and a whole host of external and internal factors. What we think we can expect from our athletes just might not be possible, and nobody can do it. If any of these sound familiar, it's because we're human. And these 6 reasons, they don't know what to do, they don't know how to do it, they know what to do, but they don't know how to do it. They know what to do, they know how to do it, and they think they are doing it, but they're not. Obstacles beyond their control, personal limitations, and because nobody can do it, they fall into one big bucket. And if you could put a sticker on that bucket, put a big label on it, it would say they had no choice. They had no other option. Think about every one of these. Okay. They had no choice. As leaders, as athletes, as teammates, as parents and coaches, our job isn't to assume that somebody's being defiant. That player, that teammate, that kid, they weren't trying to frustrate you. They weren't being dumb. They were doing the best they could from where they were with what they had. And when you can understand that, it can build a foundation of trust, of leadership, and opportunities for growth. And this implies in every interaction and every relationship that you have in any setting. I talk about this with adults in professional sports, in corporate environments, in teams, in personal relationships. It's everywhere because we're human. People don't do dumb stuff on purpose. This was helpful. Please share it. Keep an eye out for part 2 of this because in that episode, I'm going to give you the next bucket or category of reasons why people do things that we think are dumb. And at the end of that, I'm going to give you very tactical steps on how you might be able to respond better. See you next.